So hello everyone online. We will start in 1 minute at 8 o'clock sharp. We've got a lot to get through. Very nice to see on the chat everyone saying hello and good morning. If people could please keep doing that. It's very nice to get the feeling of people around the world all connecting. So we'll be starting in 1 minute. Very good. Well, welcome everybody. Good morning. It's 8 o'clock in Brooklyn, where I am, and that is the start time for us. We have a very full agenda today. We'll be covering a lot, so we're going to start exactly on time. Also, I'm going to try and get out of the way and let our speakers start talking as fast as I can. But welcome all of you to this event on powerful alliances, building a better future for women across the world. And welcome to everybody, whether you're on Zoom or YouTube Live. We're moderating both platforms. We've had a spectacular level of interest in this event. It's wonderful to see. It means that we've well exceeded the capacity of Zoom in terms of the number of participants. And that's why we're also on YouTube Live for those who didn't make it onto Zoom on time. If you are on Zoom, you have access to interpretation. We have Spanish to English, English to Portuguese and Spanish. If you want to activate the interpretation, there's a globe at the bottom of your screen in the Zoom taskbar, and you can select the language that you want. This event is to present the key highlights and results of 3 EU-funded programs. That's We Empower G7, We Empower Asia, and Win-Win in Latin America and the Caribbean. And we're going to be showcasing today the resources and the tools produced by these 3 programs. But we're also going to be forward-looking and highlight strategic opportunities and key areas for further action with the private sector on gender equality and women's economic empowerment. This is also an opportunity just to recognize a really important partnership between the European Commission, the International Labour Organization, and UN Women through 3 programs to advance women's economic empowerment by fostering gender-responsive business conduct through the Women's Empowerment Principles, which we'll hear about, creating gender-inclusive entrepreneurship ecosystems, advancing dialogues on gender lens investing, and promoting an enabling environment where women lead and participate equally in the world of business. And we're going to be hearing about work in the G7, that's Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, UK, and the US, Asia, China, that's China, India, Indonesia, Malaysia, the Philippines, Thailand, and Vietnam as the focus countries for the work. And in Latin America, Caribbean, those countries have been Argentina, Brazil, Chile, Costa Rica, Jamaica, and Uruguay. So we have a lot to talk about. We have some amazing speakers to talk about it. And so with no further ado, I would like to pass to my colleague at UN Women, the Deputy Executive Director and Assistant Secretary General at UN Women, Anita Bhatia, to open us off. So Anita, over to you.
Thank you very much, Dan, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all participants. It really is wonderful to see a turnout of more than 350 people for an event like this. So a very warm welcome to all of you, whether you are joining us on Zoom or on YouTube Live. I'd like to start by just echoing what Dan said and really just starting by acknowledging the partnership and the strong partnership that we have with the European Commission and with the ILO, because these 3 programs, as you will hear later today, would not be possible and would not have the results that you're going to be hearing about if it weren't for this very strong partnership that we have. So with that, I'd also like to say a really warm welcome to Hilde Hardeman, who is the head of service for foreign policy instruments at the European Commission. And I'd like to say, Hilde, good morning, welcome, and thank you so much for all of the support that you have given this program over many, many years and in many, many ways. because you have been our strategic partner, you have participated in multi-stakeholder dialogues, you have contributed to our knowledge and communication products, and you have been a partner in crime with me on many of these panels and webinars. So thank you so much for that, for both your strong strategic and financial partnership that has allowed us to advance the economic empowerment of women through these three really amazing programs. And I'd also like to thank the ILO and very warmly welcome Mr. Victor van Veren, who is the director of the Enterprises Department, another entity with whom we enjoy a very strong and fruitful partnership. Thank you so much and welcome. Let me start by just reminding us all that even though many of us are living and are privileged enough to be living in countries where we have access to vaccines and where many of us may be vaccinated and are back at work and therefore are living under what seem like almost normal circumstances, there is still a great deal of the world that does not have access to vaccines. And so the world very clearly is divided into those people and those women who have access to vaccines and those who don't. And these fault lines, which became evident during the pandemic, have not gone away. And we know that women in particular have been very badly affected by the pandemic. And while I am not going to go into great and excruciating detail on all of those negative and disproportionately negative impacts on women, I do want to say that the emerging evidence is very clear that among those small and medium enterprises that were affected by the pandemic, women-owned businesses suffered disproportionately more. And that's not surprising when you think of what women have had to shoulder in terms of the care responsibility through the pandemic and what they have had to shoulder in terms of a continuing lack of access to resources, capital, knowledge, and markets during the pandemic. So to support women-owned businesses, we have undertaken a number of initiatives. We have co-designed an advocacy tool with women entrepreneurs that has highlighted the particular kind of support that is needed to be provided by the governments, by the private sector, and by civil society. We have launched the Kerr Accelerator, which leverages the power of innovation in the care economy. We have conducted gender-sensitive training, and we have created and strengthened women's networks so that more women are visible, connected, empowered, and therefore better able to do better business. And with all of this has come an encouraging development and a noteworthy development, which is the increased uptake of the women's empowerment principles. These principles, as you know, address pervasive challenges of gender equality in the world. And we have seen a great uptake of companies adopting the women's empowerment principles, particularly during COVID-19, following UN Women and our partners joint publishing of clear guidance of COVID-19 response and recovery. And so today, we can be very proud of our collective efforts that have resulted in 6,000 WEPS signatories committing to the 7 principles and making progress, very specific progress on WEPS implementation with the support of the EU finance programs. And I'd like here to just provide 2 concrete examples of how these principles benefit the community. And these examples, by the way, come directly from that community of practitioners who have signed up. So just 2 small examples. First, from a man in a very large company who said that by being more empowered and by being more fluent in gender equality, that he really felt He had, excuse me, acquired the tools of persuasion to drive gender equality within his company. And second, a woman from a medium-sized business who said that tracking, and I'm reading verbatim, tracking those statistics and measuring our performance on women's empowerment principles has enabled our executives to reflect on possible solutions and take informed decisions. She goes on to say, we have seen a really big impact within our business. And that's what we all want. And from these sorts of examples, we are learning firsthand how valuable and impactful it is to bring different people, sectors, and pieces of knowledge from different worlds together, because it is helping to generate those cultural shifts which are absolutely vital for the change that we want to see. Going forward, and in conclusion, let me just say that I'm really confident that with the tens of thousands of champions for gender equality that we have brought together, we can continue to make a difference and make gender equality a reality. Today, we are launching a study of the largest 350 companies in G7 countries. It offers insights on how the public and the private sector work together to advance gender equality and women's empowerment. A key finding of this study is that web signatories generally perform better on gender equality than non-signatories. Not a surprising result, but worthwhile to just dwell on a few factoids. First, that signatories had stronger commitment to human rights compared to non-signatories. And not surprisingly, signatories have a much better gender balance in the workforce, more women on boards, more women in executive and senior management positions. They tend to have supplier diversity policies, and they are much more likely to have gone through an independent gender audit. And taking cognizance of the increased uptake of environmental, social, and governance reporting in the world generally, we have developed a comprehensive transparency and accountability framework that guides companies to advance gender-responsive business conduct at a systemic level. This will be a continued priority of our work with the private sector. We also know that companies are asking and are being asked by their investors to be more transparent and more accountable on gender equality. And as a result, we believe it will be very important to push for and to continue to use gender-related performance indicators of companies to assess where is the largest return on investment and how can one reduce investment risks through a gender focus. So we are working with partners to explore new avenues to drive more capital towards gender equality, including through green, social, and hopefully in the not too distant future, through gender bonds. In conclusion, and to wrap up, let me just say that the Global Acceleration Plan for Gender Equality, which was launched at the Generation Equality Forum in July and is supported by 100 Action Coalition leaders, includes the European Commission and many EU member states and more than 1,000 commitment makers. Around 1/3 of these are from the private sector. And this is something that we would like to build on and to continue to grow. And so this example of strong government action, strong private sector action, and vibrant civil society engagement is exactly the model that we need of multi-stakeholder partnership for achieving a lot on gender equality. With that, ladies and gentlemen, welcome again, and thank you very much. Back to you, Dan.
Thank you very much, Anita. So in the interest of time, I'm going to be very telegraphic and brief introducing people. And I think, Anita, you already helped give an excellent introduction to our next speaker. That's Ms. Hilda Hardiman, who's the head of service for foreign policy instruments at the European Commission, and very much one of the architects, not only of this work, but I think many of the gender equality collaborations that New Women and other partners work with the European Commission on. So Hilda, over to you.
Thank you so much, Dan. Dear Anita, dear colleagues from the ILO, and dear participants from all over the world. All my thanks to UN Women for organizing this event, and to you all for joining. And Anita, thank you for the very kind words for my team and myself. I'm really very pleased to celebrate today what we have brought about together through our joint women empowerment actions. It has been a great journey since we launched our partnership just 3 years ago. Our joint work is making a real difference on the ground, as Anita has demonstrated with facts and figures, and that is what counts. But very importantly, the work is never finished, and we must take it further together, widening and accelerating our action. Since we started our journey, the world has become a different place. The challenges that were there before remain, often amplified. The pandemic has affected us all across the globe. The way to recovery is hard, with many hurdles, and especially so for women. Anita has sketched the situation. Clearly, the challenges are global, and so must be our response. And together we must and can address these challenges. And together we must and can make the most of all opportunities ahead of us. Clearly, we are stronger together. And that is why the EU and its member states join forces with partners across the world to fight the pandemic and build forward better in an inclusive way that empowers women across the globe. That is also the objective of our joint work with UN Women, with the ILO, with experts, and very importantly, the private sector and civil society. I have personally very much enjoyed our cooperation, bringing together an amazing group of motivated people from all walks of life, resolved to make the world a better place. The key recommendations and tools that have been developed as part of our joint project will remain a most valuable instrument for many, in many different contexts, for many years ahead. Our action has brought along women and men from north to south, from east to west. Anita already referred to the great uptake of the women empowerment principles. I cherish the memory of how we celebrated the Asia Pacific Women's Empowerment Principles Awards that recognized hundreds of signatories to the Women Empowerment Principles for their efforts to advance gender equality. And I think with pleasure and actually pride also of the Women Empowerment Principles Regional Forum in Latin America, with more than 2,000 companies registering for 40 hours of powerful content on gender equality and women empowerment in the private sector. Today, we are launching our study on women's empowerment principles, 350 companies in the G7, as Anita has announced. It shows how important it is for governments, the private sector, civil society to work hand in hand to recognize women's rights in the workplace, marketplace, and community, and bring about that cultural shift that is needed to make our world a truly gender equal world. Now, none of this would have been possible without you. So congratulations, thank you. Your actions speak louder than words. We are really proud of you, and we are very proud to be your partner. So we continue our joint work together with full commitment, because it's clear together we can change the world. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Hilda. I think you said two particularly important things. One, just the clarity. This is about empowering women around the world, and that laser focus that we have working together, but also about the power of this partnership and collaboration, and partnership more generally to achieve change. So thank you very, very much. Let me go straight away to our next opening speaker, Mr. Victor van Veren, who's the director of the Enterprises Department at our very good friends, the International Labour Organization. So Vic, over to you.
Thank you very much. And I'm speaking to you from Ljubljana, where I'm attending some European Union meetings, which is quite coincidental. It's a pleasure to join forces with the European Union and UN Women, and to show how this innovative partnership has contributed to advance gender equality and women's economic empowerment. Gender equality and women's economic empowerment are key to achieving decent work for all, which is really what drives the ILO's mandate. As recognized in the 20th left behind. As central components of the decent work agenda, they are the key focus areas for the ILO. Our international labor standards provide a strong foundation for equality and decent work, and a call for prioritizing gender transformative measures, particularly amidst the challenges brought about by COVID-19. The ILO report, which is the business case for change, which surveyed nearly 13,000 enterprises across the globe, shows there are longer term and strategic benefits to the bottom line connected with gender diversity. It's not just an emotive matter, it's one of equality and it's one of business sense. Enterprises with an equal opportunities policy are more likely to report increased productivity and profitability. Through proactive policies and practices, the private sector plays a central role in fostering a culture in which women can participate and develop to their fullest potential. And this not only benefits women, but more importantly now, also their families and societies. It's not just a singular approach. The We Empower project has provided an important opportunity to make progress in these areas. The COVID-19 crisis hit midway through the implementation phases of these projects and required a rapid reorientation to virtual and online delivery in response to the changing circumstances. And congratulations to the teams that were able to adapt so quickly. But more importantly, the projects experienced firsthand the gender impact of the crisis and seized the opportunity to provide timely and concrete advice to ensure that the modest gains on gender equality made before the pandemic were not lost. Together, we have worked towards policies that promote gender equality to remaining at the core of the crisis and recovery responses. I'd just like to give two or three examples of what we see as highlights of the joint work. One, a call for G7 nations to put in place measures to promote gender equality amid the crisis. A guidance note for employers with concrete written platform. The publication of 4 reports with illustrative practices, a series of tools to support women entrepreneurs in Latin America and the Caribbean, and so I can go on. As the world moves towards recovery out of COVID-19 pandemic, let us keep in mind the global commitments to a human-centered recovery. The ILO, with its mandate for social justice and decent work, is using all its means of action to support the design and implementation of recovery strategies that leaves no one behind and that has a human-centered focus. And now I'll get a little bit more emotional on the side. We need to value human beings, and in particular, the role of women. They are not machines that can be turned on and off or discarded when facing challenges like COVID. And we're seeing evidence of that. Time for a lot more action, starting at the global national levels, like this program that moves from good intentions to implementation. The time is now to scale up our activities, and we need to take these pockets of excellence that we're creating and learn how to scale it up. And the leadership needs to stand up and be counted for this. By working together, we can make gender equality a reality for all. So we look forward to continuing this important partnership. And I thank you very much. Back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Vic. And really appreciate you not only showcasing and giving a taste of some of the very rich range of products that we have coming out of this collaboration, but also the point that you made that this is not only an equality issue, although that would be enough, but also one of business sense and that multiplier effect for families and societies of empowering women through this project and beyond. So thank you. I'm aware that we're falling a little bit behind time. So again, we'll be brief and say we're now going to go into 3 sessions looking at these 3 programs, the first for the G7, the second for Asia, the third for Latin America, Caribbean. So with no further ado, I will pass to my colleague Anna Falth. She's our head for the Women's Empowerment Principles work and the manager of the We Empower G7 program, who will moderate our first session on responsible business conduct that advances gender equality and women's economic empowerment. So Anna, over to you, and thank you for anything you can do. Make sure we're keeping ourselves on time, I'll ask, but Anna, to you.
Thank you, Dan. I'll do my best. Time is short. So just a few introductory remarks on the responsible business conduct that advances gender equality and women's economic empowerment session, We have a lineup of 3 amazing women who are all experts on diversity, equality, and inclusion. And but just to mention that, and I think we've heard from you, all of you previously, that we have leveraged the women's empowerment principles to foster responsible business conduct. We have done that by convening, I think, about 60,000 and more people to really activate. We have taken the approach of making a commitment, activate actions within companies, tracking the results, and also recently we have asked companies to report. And we see that there are various factors that have made this happen. It's both the push and the pull factors, but more importantly, for those that have joined this event today, it's thanks to all of you. You are champions for gender equality. We heard from you. We've seen that you are putting pressure, but also we have developed a series of tools. And as we heard also from ILO, we have pulled different worlds together with different perspectives, different understanding of gender equality and women's empowerment. And as we know, diversity fosters innovation. So during these past 3 years that we have worked with the European Union and ILO, we have grown the community of web signatories from 1,700 in the beginning of 2018 to nearly 6,000 companies today. And this is very much thanks to you as professionals and gender advocates that have been working with us. It is consumers that don't accept anymore to buy products from companies that are not aligning with their values, but more importantly, the talent. We have also seen an uptake of investors, and we have a session later that talks about gender-lens investing. And all together, we have generated these results. We have a toolkit that have brought together all the resources that we have co-created together. And as we heard from Anita and Dan, that we are launching, and Hilde, we're launching this publication today that really takes a snapshot of the largest 350 companies in the G7, and great results, and we'll share the link with all of you. But I will now introduce our speakers. As I mentioned, we have 3 amazing contributions. We have Karen, who is a principal lead of public affairs in the Americas for the LEGO Group. And we'll hear from Karen how they learn through the play agenda. And I'm sure you're all familiar with LEGO and will align with that. We have Catherine Kirschenmann, who is the co-founder of The Do. She's a serial entrepreneur and co-creates innovation and develop purposeful doers. And that's what we need for this agenda. And we have Erika Zöller, who's the head of diversity and inclusion in NG in South America. She's a professor in diversity and inclusion. So we have the amazing expertise today to start this conversation about responsible business conduct. So if we can have all the speakers on video. I see Catherine. Do we also have Erika and Karen? Okay, so let me ask the first question to Erika. If you could tell us a little bit how the women's empowerment principles have changed the way you do business, and how have you managed to embed the principles into your business model? And how have you been able to drive transparency and accountability to this agenda? Over to you, Erika.
Okay, thank you, Anna. Hello to everyone. A pleasure to be here with you today. Well, what I can tell you is that before establishing a specific area of D&I at NG, we were already planning the structuring of actions for cultural transformation. So when we signed the WEPs, we took a big step, and it was a trigger, I believe, for starting conversations and to reflect about the power of gender parity. And we were lucky that we could count from the very beginning on top management commitment, which reminds me of the principle number 1. Along the way, we learned a lot about the process. For instance, by filling out the gender analysis gap document, we understood that we need to improve a lot. The principles were like the initial guidelines, you know, that we needed and still need, of course, to advance on the subject. So we are organizing our measurement with the integration of gender statistics and the sex disaggregated data in our reports. And this is helping a lot ENGIE to better understand the current situation and establish the top priorities, reminding us about the principle number 7. And this is key to enable employees, communities where we operate in, and investors to better understand how the organization contributes to gender equality and women's empowerment in the workplace. So through the gender lens for business is being built step by step at ENGIE and has been incorporated in various and different areas of the company. So we have been paving the way to achieve some goals. So I give you one example that we have the global 50-50 program that aims to achieve gender balance in management positions by 2030. And of course, this leverages diversity in a wide perspective. So every year we have focused on a topic for deeper understanding. I mentioned that in the end of 2019, we signed the WEPs. So in 2020, last year, we worked with the Inclusive Conversations program, talking about microaggression, disrespect, and respect. And it was a teaser for unconscious bias. And in 2021, we deepened the topic of unconscious bias by training all employees, the HR team, and also bridging the conversation with leadership. So the commitment for recruitment and selection and promotion of women. And next year, the focus will be on masculinities, you know, how we can intentionally involve men in this process. And what I would like to say that above all, we need people's engagement to advance more. So it's necessary for them to understand the reasons why we need to develop inclusion. Otherwise, it's difficult to advance. Men and women now at ENGIE have been given the opportunity to improve their consciousness on a wide range of D&I themes. And what I believe is that we are building together, step by step, a working environment that brings empathy with information, collaboration, and this contributes not only for ENGIE, but all companies to be more innovative, and for the companies to be more, to anticipate the challenges of the 21st century. Hopefully I answered your 2 questions in a good way, Anna.
Yes, excellent, Erica. It was very good. And just to picking up on 2 things that you said is the importance of working on this through the culture to make sure that the culture is enabling for gender equality. And I think that's a very, very important part of embedding the women's empowerment principles in the business model. It's a very good starting point, but also not to forget the measurements and the tracking of results that both fosters transparency around what the work accomplishes, but also it leads to more informed decisions and accountability. So thank you very much for those insights, Erica. We'll move to Karen Hughes, who is the principal lead of public affairs at Lego Group in America. So what have been your key learnings on Lego's WEPs journey, and what could help other companies to advance gender equality? If you could give some concrete examples of results that have helped when you implement the WEPs, specifically on gender equality and women's empowerment. Over to you, Karen. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for the question, Anna, and also to UN Women for hosting this event today. We've been thrilled to be in partnership and to have signed on to the Women's Empowerment Principles. And I'm personally really honored to be with all of you from around the world today. At the LEGO Group, our mission is to inspire and develop the builders of tomorrow, children. As a part of this mission to help all children develop the skills that will help them fulfill their potential, we take very seriously our role in helping to build a more equitable world. Signing the Women's Empowerment Principles reaffirms the LEGO Group's commitment to being an organization that empowers women and works to inspire every child. In concrete terms, the Women's Empowerment Principles have helped unify our efforts around the world. The WEPs have provided a holistic and global framework for how we organize and activate around our internal goals. Ultimately, as a company with many different departments across multiple countries, it's really easy for diversity and inclusion projects to become siloed. But having a global goal has helped us to formalize and accelerate initiatives while also supporting more proactive communication around them to our internal and our external stakeholders. In sum, the WEPs have been an important framework that help us as a company, and we hope helps other companies look at progress holistically. In terms of what this has helped us achieve, happy to share a range of programs, initiatives, and activities that are building community throughout the LEGO Group. We have updated our gender policy to be more forward-leaning to promote equality. We regularly do pay comparison between men and women in similar positions. This year, we also launched employee advocacy groups. They serve women and other identity groups throughout our employee community. Also this month, we will launch a senior leader mentoring program that pairs members of underrepresented communities at every level of the company with our highest level company leadership. The goal of this program is to build a broad awareness among senior leaders for the needs and challenges faced by colleagues from underrepresented backgrounds. And last, but certainly not least, we have recently launched a global universal leave policy that provides 26 weeks of paid leave for primary caregivers and 8 weeks for supporting child caregivers. This, combined with a flexible return to work policy in light of the COVID-19 pandemic, have helped to support the caregivers of children in our workforce. I also want to speak to how we interact with our primary stakeholders, children, and to our communities. We recently partnered with the Gina Davis Institute on a study that demonstrated concretely that there are still damaging stereotypes that impact children in toys and in play. Girls, for instance, are more likely to be encouraged by parents to do arts and crafts, while boys are more encouraged to engage in play and toys that build science, technology, engineering, and math skills. Further, 71% of boys are afraid of playing with the wrong gendered toy because girls' play is looked down upon. Girls are less afraid of playing with boys' toys, but we still find that they're not encouraged to develop skills that will help later in life. For this reason, the LEGO Group has committed to breaking down stereotypes across our product line. And finally, I want to take a moment to reflect on the importance of tackling challenges that impact women and girls from a lens of intersectionality. We know that women and girls who are marginalized because of disability, race or ethnicity, or LGBTQ status compounds the challenges they face because of their gender. We are committed in the work that we do for our employees and our communities to ensuring that we are continuously in listening mode to understand how the LEGO Group can help build a more equitable world. We look forward to continued work with UN Women and with all of you towards building this better future.
Thank you so much, Karen. Great to hear, and it's great that you're working not only with people in the company but also your customers to make sure that we can help shift those gender stereotypes. Because if everyone goes into the labor market with an open mindset about gender equality, diversity, and inclusion, we don't have to do all this work once they get out in the labor market. So I think that's a very, very good and great contribution. And also thanks for mentioning the intersectionality, that we cannot create policies and interventions that are focusing on women as one identity. There are many different identities and we need to take them into account. So thank you. I also saw a comment from one of the participants that talked about the importance of employers being empathetic and caring. And I think this is also something that we see more from the COVID-19 pandemic, that this is particularly important that we show empathy and caring for each other. We have our final panelist, Catherine Kirschenman, the co-founder and Chief Program Officer of The Do. And as mentioned earlier, you're creating doers. So we'd like to hear more about that. So if you could share some concrete examples and results of implementing the WEPs, and how can web signatories collaborate to have larger collective impact? Over to you, Catherine.
Thank you, Anna. And thank you so much also for already sharing these really impactful examples, Erica and Karen. I think it's really great to hear what companies are already doing and to share these really concrete steps. With the Do, we essentially over the last 10 years have worked with corporate partners in Europe and Asia specifically on their sustainability journey. And that can be a large range of topics. Right now, for example, we're working with a large car manufacturer in Germany, on their path to carbon neutrality. And one aspect there is to upskill employees to really have the knowledge and the skills and the mandate to take action and contribute to that journey. And one thing that is really important to highlight, what we've seen time and again over the last years, so when it comes to sustainability, and I subsume gender equality and diversity and inclusion in that, is that many companies are currently not really understanding that they need to change their perspective and mindset when it comes to finding answers. Because when it comes to traditional business, of course, it's all about building internal expertise and protecting that expertise. And that is absolutely correct. But when we talk about sustainability, then actually it is really a lot more important to opening up and to collaborating, because not every single company can find and implement all the answers by themselves. Actually, opposite is the case. It's rather the innovation that comes from the outside that needs to get included and needs to get scaled so that everybody can actually benefit from it. And this is one aspect that I want to highlight today as well, is that really to open up and to scale implementation and impact, there's two big pieces it needs from my perspective. And one is a broad internal mandate to do that. And then secondly, also a really open approach to collaborate with others. And that can be through joint initiatives, that can be through innovation platforms, and whatever the approach is that's appropriate for the respective company. But it's really about opening up to new kinds of collaboration, new kinds of innovation, and including new actors, for example, startups and others that previously have maybe not been part of the ecosystem of the respective company. And I want to give one concrete example of what's currently happening and what we can share in terms of also success and concrete measures, which is in collaboration with We Empower Asia. We're implementing the industry disruptor. And the focus of the industry disruptor is actually on web number 5, the gender responsible procurement. And we've built the industry disruptor with a mandate to create an innovation ecosystem that does exactly what I was describing before, brings together corporates with entrepreneurs, investors, industry experts, NGOs, and really focuses on jointly finding solutions, sharing solutions, and also scaling solutions in the space of gender responsive procurement. Currently, we're focusing on the fashion industry, but obviously with the aim to really expand into other industries as well. What's interesting here is that we can really cover the whole value chain from production to consumer. And with every company that joins the industry disruptor as a partner, in the beginning, they each reflect and focus and create concrete challenges that they want to tackle that are currently most pressing for them, that they need innovation on when it comes to women empowerment and gender responsible procurement. And then these challenges are brought to the ecosystem, and through co-creation processes, the whole ecosystem contributes to creating answers and also is allowed to take those answers and implement them in their own context. And so this way we really bring together the knowledge and the expertise, but also the innovation mindset of startups, and others. And I think what we can see here is that we have results on various different levels that I quickly want to share. So on the one, we really see obviously that the whole ecosystem is driven by the same mission. And there's a very open atmosphere to co-create, to share, to learn together. And we also see collaboration potential between all the different actors. We have entrepreneurs who, discover each other and discover scaling opportunities when partnering up. We have corporate partners that have already started new initiatives together with entrepreneurs, bringing them into their value chains, or also designing completely new aspects of work that they're doing together. And of course, there is a big platform to also share best practice and to learn really how to do this opening up, because it's not really super easy to do, to really open up and know how to interact with players that are so different from yourself. And so I think creating such platforms and ecosystems is really a key in driving the implementation, for example, of the women empowerment principles and other sustainability challenges, because these platforms can really drive innovation. They can lead to scaled implementation and of course accelerate action. And so I think this is a long-term effort in building these platforms and ecosystems that can be really bring long-term benefits to all of its players.
Thank you so much, Catherine, for sharing this very valuable experience and work. I think that the point that you're really making here, which is the common theme throughout our 3 programs and this event today, is multi-stakeholder engagement. And that's what really brings about the results that we want to achieve. I talked earlier about that we have many of our champions, gender champions here in the event, but we need everyone on board to help drive this agenda. The supply chain is a great avenue to do so, and to make sure that we hold everyone to account in the different tiers of the supply chain, to make sure that we also reaching the women who might otherwise be left behind, as we say in the SDG agenda, and to make sure that everyone is brought on board in this ecosystem of gender responsive business. We need consumers, we need the investors, we need the employers and employees, we need everyone on board. So thanks very much to the 3 of you, Karen, Erica, and Catherine, for making these contributions. And I'm now going to ask Dan to take back the floor and continue the event. So thank you so much, everyone, and thanks for the great comments in the chat.
Thank you, Anna, and thank you, colleagues, for all of your contributions. And as Anna said, we have some great conversation going on in the chat. There's also a Q&A function for those who are on Zoom. Sorry, colleagues on YouTube, that's not available to you, but we can continue those conversations in parallel as we go through the event and of course beyond. So now we have, just before we go to the second panel, we have a video. I've had the pleasure of seeing this before. It's great. So with no further ado, let's play the video.
Gender inequality is one of the largest economic and social costs to society. Women earn only 1/10 of global income, while they contribute to 2/3 of the entirety of working hours. At the current rate, the gender equality gap will take 268 years to close.
We need bold, big, and faster steps.
In the past 10 years, UN Women has designed different models of partnerships with the private sector to advance gender equality in the workplace, marketplace, and community. He4She is a global platform with almost 40 world leaders and over 3 million activists that invites men and boys to strive for an equal world. The Onstartup Alliance is a powerful collective of 185 members that focuses on removing harmful stereotypes from advertising and media content.
UN Women and the Global Compact created the Women's Empowerment Principles 10 years ago. The 7 principles facilitate progress at the workplace, at the marketplace, and in the community.
We've all got the SDGs out there as our North Star. You can have that goal of number 5, which is gender equality, but that doesn't really tell you how to achieve it. Whereas the women's empowerment principles actually let you think about how to make the change happen across a whole range of measures.
We've gone from a situation 15, 20 years ago where only a handful of businesses were even interested in this, to a point now today where a business that doesn't get what advancing women and what gender equality can do for it is now seen as a laggard.
We really want to take part in this women empowerment movement, and we hope that this will give more motivation for other people to also join.
Applying the women's empowerment principles are a matter of smart economy. Governments and companies really have an interest in promoting women economic empowerment because they can achieve better results for everybody.
This is the time for disruptors, young and old. Time for actions to change the course of history for women and girls.
Take action today. Join UN Women and its partners in contributing to generation equality.
Well, colleagues, if you weren't fired up about this agenda before that, then you certainly should be now. And absolutely, I hope everybody has the link to that as video. If you don't, we'll make sure you have it, because I think we should circulate that as widely as we can. So let me go straight away to give the floor to my colleague Katja Freiwald, who's the program manager for We Empower Asia. She's going to moderate our second session on women entrepreneurs and women-led businesses. So Katja, over to you.
Thank you very much, Dan. And I have to say, I am especially thrilled to moderate, particularly this session. And I saw already in the chat there are quite some entrepreneurs joining us today as well. And I think everyone in the room who has been working with entrepreneurs or talked to entrepreneurs can very much relate to the feeling that I have when I work with entrepreneurs. It's about a drive for action. There's no time lost to grow their business, and really that innovation spirit. And I think that's exactly what we need right now, where we have heard already that gender equality is at risk in many senses. But what I really would like to share is the work that we have been doing over the past 2 in We Empower Asia and 3 with the wider programs on entrepreneurship. And we have been really working with a lot of micro entrepreneurs, larger size entrepreneurs, but some entrepreneurs that are very much in the middle, and I'm calling this the missing middle. And these are very much entrepreneurs, and particularly women entrepreneurs, who are working on the most persistent challenges. And Catherine has mentioned some of these already through her work on the industry disruptor, but entrepreneurs that are addressing unpaid care work, for example, or environmental challenges in the fashion industry, which is an important sector for the EU in this case, or entrepreneurs that we had a chance with to work when the pandemic hit us, really helping to find solutions for the pandemic and to respond. Or like my colleagues in the win-win region, working on some of the very important supply chains. I think every morning we are reminded when we're drinking coffee, but really helping entrepreneurs within that industry to flourish. But what we have also been seeing throughout the program, that we were in the middle of the program when the pandemic hit, and Anita elaborated to this already in the beginning, but the entrepreneurs that we have been working with, but the SMEs particularly, have been really hit hard through that pandemic. And we have had a chance to really do rapid assessments and understanding the impacts, and really saw that, to no surprise, the impacts on women-owned businesses were overproportionally. But do not stop at a negative or pessimistic sentence. We also had the opportunity to really turn this around, or contribute at least to work with these entrepreneurs to drive us forward. And the reason for that were 2 things. One, we had really tremendous, great support from our partners of the EU, who really allowed us to review our program and really kind of help us to adapt very fast. And secondly, we also had the great opportunity to work with partners. As I say, partners in an ecosystem of entrepreneurs are very fast responsive, are very resilient, very adaptable, and really bring a lot of sense of innovation. And that's what they have done. And before I really introduce the great speakers today that give a little bit more content and meat to the bone on what we have been doing, I just want to give you the kind of visual perspective on how we have been addressing this. So we have been working on 3 key pillars across the 3 regions. So first, looking very much at the women-owned businesses and entrepreneurs and help them to be capacitated, help them at multiple levels growing their businesses, trainings from inclusion, trainings around financial performance, business development, but also help them to be set up in networks. And we're going to be hearing much more about that. So really focusing on that individual and make them visible and capacitated. The second element is really going a little bit further, because women entrepreneurs are not existing in an isolation. They are in an ecosystem. So we've been working with many partners together to really strengthen that ecosystem. And here we don't speak only an ecosystem for women entrepreneurs, but we speak about a gender-responsive ecosystem for a multitude of entrepreneurs. So I've been working with acceleration programs, with investors, with corporation, really leverage the great network of web signatories to connect entrepreneurs to market as well. And then the third element, then we speak kind of, how do we change the game? How do we change the system? And we will be hearing also about that on how to really work on advocacy, changing policies and regulation to create an enabling environment where women entrepreneurs and gender responsive entrepreneurs can really flourish in. Some of the examples, what came to my mind most recent is in Vietnam, we have changed the SME law to be much more gender responsive, but we've also been working very strongly with the women entrepreneurs to be part of that journey, part of that advocacy. And I'll kind of stop it here and really introduce our amazing panel. If you could move to the next slide to see them in full. So we have with us today Emil Schmitz, who is the CEO of the bottom of the pyramid innovation center, BOP Inc. In the Netherlands, who will be sharing a bit more with us today around the work that they are doing with entrepreneurs. I'm extremely thrilled to have Irene Ventic with us today, who is joining us from Buenos Aires. So one is not just to you, Irene. I'm just gonna tell everyone already, when Irene is speaking, there's a button at the bottom to get translation, so just for the ones that need that. But Irene is going to bring a really interesting perspective to us. She is the president of the Gender Commission at the Argentinian Industrial Organization, and she's wearing many more hats, but she's going to talk to us today about women and sustainability and women and networks. And last but not least, we have Virginia Littlejohn, who's the co-founder and president of Quantum Leaps and the co-chair of the W20 Entrepreneurship Working Group. And we're extremely thrilled to have Virginia with us today to talk particularly about that third piece about the system change. But let me start right in the middle here. And again, a very warm welcome to you, Irene. It would be great. I've heard so much about your work and the work with our Win-Win program in Latin America. It would be great if you could share with us a little bit more on your perspective. Why is women's empowerment so important for sustainable development, and why is it so important to form women networks? What's happening when women get together? Over to you, Irene.
Bueno, Katia, muchas gracias. Un placer enorme poder estar compartiendo un día tan especial con todos y con todas desde Buenos Aires, desde Argentina, desde América Latina, y sobre todo con este programa tan querido por toda nuestra comunidad, por el impacto que realmente ha tenido en el ecosistema productivo y en la sociedad argentina. Sabemos que como humanidad estamos transitando un camino de evolución, que necesitamos ampliar nuestra conciencia para descubrir nuevas maneras de relacionarnos, nuevas maneras de consumir y sobre todo nuevas maneras de producir. Las crisis económicas que vivimos en diferentes países del mundo y en especial en Latinoamérica, la crisis del COVID y sobre todo la crisis del cambio climático, el avance de la tecnología, la industria 4.0 nos interpela profundamente para encontrar nuevas soluciones a los desafíos que enfrentamos. Necesitamos avanzar hacia modelos productivos conscientes, capaces de ser desarrollados en armonía con el entorno social, con nuestro medio ambiente, con la naturaleza. La mujer dispone de una mirada de cuidado, la que fuimos construyendo a lo largo de miles de años. Esa sabiduría ancestral hoy podemos volcarla al sector productivo y transformar nuestras economías con más y mejores oportunidades para todos. Creo que esa es la llave, de alguna manera, del cambio y de la transformación y de la base de por qué es tan importante el empoderamiento de la mujer para el desarrollo sostenible. Impulsar el liderazgo empresarial de las mujeres es impulsar la transformación de estos ecosistemas productivos. Y para que esto suceda es necesario provocar esa conexión con el poder que habita en cada una de nosotras. En Argentina tuvimos la posibilidad, por el programa Ganar Ganar, por el acompañamiento de la OIT, de ONU Mujeres, de la Unión Europea, de recibir y de abrazar este programa y que nos permitiera, de alguna manera, comenzar a descubrir cuáles eran las barreras, por qué no teníamos mujeres en posiciones de liderazgo, o si las teníamos, no estaban lo suficientemente visibilizadas. Y es así como comenzamos desde la Unión Industrial de la Provincia de Buenos Aires a transitar este camino de descubrimiento, de acompañar esta investigación, y cuando íbamos avanzando en la investigación, íbamos develando, íbamos descubriendo cuáles eran esas barreras que a nosotras mismas nos habían de alguna manera confinado a espacios en donde no habíamos podido avanzar. Entonces, la primera transformación comenzó adentro de cada una de nosotras. Éramos 3 o 4, luego fuimos hasta 20. Empezamos a crear una red colaborativa, porque naturalmente lo que nos sucede a las mujeres cuando empezamos a conectar con ese poder transformador que habita en cada una de nosotras, lo que se activa es la lógica colaborativa. Es esa lógica colaborativa la que nos permite construir modelos de liderazgos nuevos, ¿no? Innovadores, en donde buscamos los espacios de poder no para dominar, sino para transformar. Entonces, esto que nos empezó a suceder en la provincia de Buenos Aires empezó a expandirse a través del resto del país, porque desde la Unión Industrial de la Provincia de Buenos Aires propusimos la creación de una comisión de género y diversidad en la Unión Industrial Argentina para que esto pudiera expandirse hacia el resto de todo nuestro país, y fue así que hoy tengo la bendición de poder liderar ese espacio y de crear y de co-crear con mujeres empresarias de diferentes lugares del país, la red mía, Mujeres de la Industria Argentina, que hoy ya formamos parte más de 300 mujeres y que estamos comenzando a construir este camino para crear nuevos modelos de desarrollo de negocio. Y esta red no solamente se quedó en la Argentina, sino que trascendió las fronteras hacia Latinoamérica, y con el apoyo de la OIT y liderado por OIT, por ONU Mujeres, la verdad es que se crea la red de empresarias de América Latina y el Caribe, y que ya hemos tenido también nuevos contactos con las mujeres empresarias de la Unión Europea. Esto realmente está cambiando el lugar desde donde las mujeres hoy podemos impulsar una transformación de todas las economías de nuestros países. Así que un poco esa es la experiencia que hemos tenido, que estamos desarrollando, que estamos en una etapa fundacional, y que bueno, esperamos que puedan acompañarnos para que estas semillas que han sido de alguna manera sembradas en Latinoamérica y el Caribe puedan expandirse, puedan crecer y puedan darnos la oportunidad de construir ecosistemas capaces de generar abundancia, de generar riqueza y de darle una batalla desde el fondo a la pobreza que tanto duele y que de alguna manera es lo que necesitamos transformar para generar el bienestar que todos y que todas soñamos. Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you so much, gracias, Irini. I've kept down 2 words. Isn't that, well, 3, let's put it 3, leadership and networks, and the word transformation. And I think these are things that are consistent across all regions that we have been operating on as a program. I think this formation of networks and transformation of ecosystems is what really Woolstead and women are centered in that. And I think this is a very great base and something we have very much in common with the next speaker that I would ask to share his perspective. And I'm extremely pleased to have Emil with us today, because Emil is not only a growing feminist that we have been working with and working with women entrepreneurs, but has also a very strong perspective on including the most vulnerable one, and the bottom of the pyramid, what the name of the organization says already. So Emil, it would be really great if you could share your perspective or your organization's perspective on how can we change the ecosystem for entrepreneurs to really help them to thrive, and particularly for women entrepreneurs within that. Over to you, Emil.
Thank you, Katja, and thanks for inviting me on the panel. It's great to be here, and I realize there are almost 500 people behind the Zoom screen, but you can still feel a very positive vibe. So I think that's great to notice. Yeah, first of all, thanks so much, Katja, also for involving us into this. And as Bob Inc., I'm leading Bob Inc., and we've been part of the We Empower Asia program for the past 2 years. Like Katja mentioned, we focus primarily on supporting entrepreneurs and businesses to innovate and scale inclusive business models. And for us, inclusive means not only gender inclusive, but also inclusive in terms of engaging the low-income population, the base of the pyramid. So we are active across 12 markets in Africa and Asia, and the work I'm referring to here is mostly focused on Asia. If we look at the needs from most of the female entrepreneurs that we worked with, you can see that they face a number of additional disadvantages compared to men and male entrepreneurs. They include social and cultural norms, gender stereotypes, lack of access to decision-making, and also unequal access to resources. And like Anita and Hilde, and also you, Katja, already highlighted, the COVID-19 pandemic worsened this heavily. We did a needs assessment last year together with the We Empower Asia program, and it was really shocking to see that 86% of women entrepreneurs said they were negatively or very negatively affected. 75% said their caregiving responsibilities increased. And even 34% said their business was actually in danger and they might need to close operations. That's very intense. And that's why we also teamed up with the We Empower Asia program to see, like, how can we address this? And I just wanted to highlight one key part of the work that we did together, and that's labeled the We Rise Ecosystem Building Program. And that was really focused on that ecosystem that Katja also referred to, and to help to provide them really practical guidance on how they can become more gender smart. And there are 2 components that I want to highlight here. The first one is a toolkit that we co-created with entrepreneurs, and that has been implemented and used by hundreds of entrepreneurs so far. And that's a toolkit really focusing on these missing middle female entrepreneurs that Katja referred to. And it highlights 4 key modules that they were really in need of. The first one is to assess their finance needs. Secondly, how to then access the right finance. Thirdly, how to understand gender bias and how to be more assertive. And fourthly, how they can become more of an inclusive business, but also a web champion, because I think many of these female entrepreneurs are great influencers and they can take these webs beyond their own business. So hundreds of entrepreneurs have used these tools, have successfully implemented them, and by doing so, they can grow a thriving business. Secondly, another component of the Rewise program was focused on accelerators. We talked about the ecosystem before already, and I think many of us have seen the incubators and accelerators mushroom, not only in Europe, also in Asia, also in Africa. And that's a great thing. I think that really spurs innovation and entrepreneurship. But at the same time, what research also shows is that many of these accelerators are still pretty gender blind in their operations. And so we co-created another toolkit together with accelerators and other stakeholders to help these accelerators become more gender smart in their representation as an organization, also in their outreach, so they can really reach to those female entrepreneurs that often are not reached out to. And lastly, also to enable them to build a more gender smart network. And so this practical toolkit has already been taken up by 30 accelerators in Asia, but also in Europe. And we're spreading it further now, also in other continents. And I want to highlight one specific collaboration that emerged from this, which is a partnership with Climate Kick. And Climate Kick is a European initiative. It's actually the EU's main climate innovation initiative. And they run accelerators in, I think, almost every European country, but even beyond. And we worked with Climate Kick and some of their accelerators, for example, in Germany, but then also in Indonesia and Thailand, to test these tools, to fine-tune them, and then also to implement them throughout their acceleration network. And we're still collaborating with them just to make sure that all the accelerators that they run are completely gender smart and they're constantly improving on it. So I think that's a great example of how the We Empower Asia program actually has added value in Asia, but also in Europe, and we're even taking it to other countries like Kenya at the moment. So that's what I wanted to share. Maybe a last concluding remark. I just want to applaud UN Women and the We Empower Asia program for taking a rather innovative approach to this program. Been active in this sector for many years, and I just like the way that you look beyond just the status quo. You look for unusual partners and take the female entrepreneur-centric approach in your programming. So I think it's the start of much more impact, and yeah, big kudos to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Emil. And speaking about innovative approaches and going a not alternative way, I think our next speaker, Virginia Littlejohn, can speak to this as well. Virginia, I would love to come straight to the point and help you to shine a little bit of light on the great work that you have been doing with our We Empower G7 team, particularly in your role and your work around the W20 entrepreneurship and policy dialogue that was linked to that. How can we really kind of use entrepreneurs or work with them to really become advocates for their own enabling environment and their own rights in itself? So thanks for sharing a little bit on your experience and the great tools and approaches that you have been developing with our team together. Over to you, Virginia.
Thanks so much, Katja. Thank you for inviting me. And I must say what a great pleasure it is to follow Emil. Male champions of change can make so much difference. Over the past few years, the We Empower program has identified specific gaps and obstacles to be overcome to enable women's entrepreneurship to thrive. And the advocacy tool that we developed has identified all of the key stakeholders that we need to engage, as well as key recommendations to be acted upon. Acted upon is the operative term. The next stage is identifying models and best practices, many of which We Empower has already identified, and sharing those widely, continuing to build capacity for advocacy, and creating action alliances to implement recommendations. One of the critical gaps that remains is the lack of strategic advocacy by women's business associations and inadequate sharing of best practices. Thus, many countries have not benefited yet from the We Empower process and are continually trying to reinvent the wheel. If the WEP program in UN Women, the European Union, and the Women's 20, the W20 of the G20 countries, partnered on a Women's Entrepreneurship Action Alliance and built advocacy and policy capacity for women's business associations and national advisory commissions, also brought in other key international partners on particular issues in addition to the ILO, we could create rich progress at the national, regional, and global levels. Further, we could drive global change for women's entrepreneurship, resulting in more scalable businesses, more good jobs for women, and economic growth and innovation. I'd like to share with you what we're starting to do with women's entrepreneurship in the W20 of the G20 countries. That is actually 19 countries plus the European Union. So we have many other countries represented beyond just the alleged 20. We've identified 77 best practices in various areas of women's entrepreneurship, which we want to make available on a website. We're starting to develop partnerships with key international organizations on priority issues identified by our delegates, and then creating action alliances to drive change on specific issues using the action tool that has been developed and already mentioned on specific issues. For example, we're going to be partnering with the International Trade Center on public procurement, which has been a major priority for a number of years, starting with Argentina in 2018, but we haven't gotten the G20 to sign off on it yet. So we're now going to do it as a learning opportunity, creating a peer learning network where we'll build capacity for women's business associations, individual women entrepreneurs, and governments on women's public procurement to strengthen capacity as well as knowledge about global supply chains. This will also enable us to work on subcontracting issues with corporations who are members of the WEPs. We also plan to create a peer learning network on angel investment, another on green businesses, plus one on how to create a national framework on women's entrepreneurship. This was both a recommendation of We Empower and recently the OECD's SME and Entrepreneurship Working Group recommended it as well. We also plan to provide capacity building on fundraising and grant writing for nonprofits focused on women's entrepreneurship. Hopefully, we will have at least one in each G20 country. We can't let the great work done by the We Empower projects die. We must build on this powerful work, harness it, and operationalize it further, deeply building on the advocacy tool that has been developed. We also must work with partners to turn this into a powerful engine for action and global change, enabling us to build forward better from COVID and move closer to women's economic parity by 2030. I hope we can continue on this important journey of transformation together in partnership with the Women's 20. Thank you very much.
And Virginia, I'm just going to put a dot behind your remarks because I think your last sentence summarized it all. Let's continue to scale that amazing work and not reinvent new things, but really invest in the scale up of the start of the transformation process across the regions. Thank you so much. Amazing panel. I really enjoyed it. I'm back over to you then.
Thank you, Katja, and thank you particularly also for the panelists. That was informative and very much in keeping with the mood of this discussion so far. So let me go again. Unfortunately, I wish we had more time, but please do continue to take full advantage of the chat and the Q&A functions so that we can also continue to engage more broadly. And I'm going to hand straight over to my colleague, Teresa Perez del Castillo. She's the program manager for the Win-Win program. And she's going to moderate session 3 on gender lens investing. So Teresa, over to you.
Thank you so much, Daniel. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone. I'm very glad to introduce this third session on gender lens investments. As Dan said, I'm Teresa. I'm based here in Uruguay, South America, and was pleased to coordinate Win-Win regional program for the past 3.5 years. As you may know, it was an EU finance program we implemented together, UN Women, ILO, and the European Union in 6 countries in Latin America and the Caribbean. I just wanted to make a short to this prestigious panel and wanted to point out that despite the many contributions that women-owned businesses have made to the economic growth and development around the world, women still don't develop their full potential, and that is due to many reasons, as you may know. But one of the main barriers that we have identified and that limits the size and growth of women-owned businesses is lack of financing. Women-owned businesses often start with less capital and have less access to financing than men-owned businesses, and this reduces their ability to start or expand their businesses. Studies show that only 7% of private and venture capital investments in emerging markets goes to women-led companies, and only 25% of investors are women. And that's why our EU-funded programs aimed to address these gaps. And I will briefly show, and you can see in that slide, some of our impressions of what we did together in the past years. So first, creating awareness, that's key, and we did lots of events, forums, and by also involving relevant stakeholders to provide visibility to the program. We often say that the worst part of a problem is not seeing the problem. So that is why we wanted to raise awareness about the need of gender lens investment. Relevant events included regional forums on gender smart investments by Empower Asia, participation in the W20 Summit led by We Empower to generate traction from Japanese investors. And you can see there that caught attention of the Yomiuri Shimbun newspaper that has 8.5 million subscribers, and also regional forums and webinars in Latin America and powerful initiatives like the first acceleration program for Kerr enterprises that we will speak about later. So first thing, raise awareness. The second important things that we have been doing together is join forces and generate commitment, engage relevant stakeholders with this subject. And we joined together groups of experts to discuss articulated and coordinated solutions to the issue and to confirm their commitment to gender lens investments. That's the case of Investors for Equality initiative that we led by Win-Win in Latin America, and also the investor statements on webs developed by We Empower as an example. Last but not least, knowledge production. Information and knowledge is really key to move forward. So by developing knowledge products, we created necessary learning materials to move forward on the topic. As an example, I can mention the guiding principles for promoting gender lens investments, and also some documents produced by our colleagues in Asia regarding gender lens investments in Indonesia, for example. So in order to continue reflecting and taking action together, I will present our speakers. So Diana, please, the next slide, where we have our panel. And I am very, very honored to moderate this conversation and welcome them. I will give a short introduction, but you can find their complete bios at webs.org. So first we will have Carmen Correa, VP and Chief Operations Officer at ProMujer. Carmen is based in Uruguay as myself, so I'm very, very pleased to welcome her. Then we will have Lori Kerr from Canada. She's CEO of FinDev Canada. And last but not least, we will have today Anurag Malu. Anurag is joining us from India, and he's the head of partnerships at SeedStars. So a warm welcome to everyone, and thanks for joining us today. And we will start with Carmen. We could speak in Spanish, Carmen, and we are like very close, geographically very close together, but we will speak English. This is kind of weird, but we can make it. So a warm welcome to you and thanks for joining. And my question for you would be if you could speak us about why is it so important to promote gender lens investments, and what do you think are the key learnings and opportunities to move forward, and what would be a next step following these EU finance programs? The floor is yours, Carmen. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Teresa. Thank you very much, colleagues from UN Women, ILO, and the European Union for inviting me and for creating this space. ProMujer is an organization driving gender equality in Latin America through a holistic approach, delivering innovative financial and health services, entrepreneurship tools, digital and financial education for low-income women. So, why it's so important gender lens investing? Gender lens investing is a smart way of investing. It's a smart way of doing business, and it goes beyond accessing the finance. It addresses 50% of the population, as 50% of the population are women. Women control more than 64% of consumption decisions, and women are the biggest influencers in their homes. You know that, I'm sure. So besides, there is an ample evidence that if you actually have a gender balanced organization, you have better returns, you have a more innovative and efficient organization, and a more resilient organization that can perform better during crisis. That said, there are still huge gaps and huge challenges for women to access the needed finance, the needed opportunities to gain independence and be fully empowered. So I will revert the question and I will ask why you are not investing with a gender lens. What are you waiting for? Because actually gender lens investing is better business and promotes a more actually inclusive world. So have you thought of the loss and actually the cost of not including women in the economy? And let me tell you, it's $1 billion opportunity you are losing. And this is at the Latin American level. Women in Latin America face significant barriers to access financial services. It is estimated that $93 billion is the gender gap to the needed finance of SMEs in Latin America, and $5 billion for microbusinesses. McKinsey estimates that $2.6 trillion is the potential GDP that could be gained if gender gap is bridged in Latin America. These figures are public. Everybody knows these figures, but still 73% of women-led SMEs, small and medium companies in Latin America, are unable to access the resources they need to grow. They are completely, in some cases, excluded of the traditional financial system. 30% of the SMEs don't even have access to their financial services. Only 6% of the investment capital goes toward women-led businesses. Gender lens investing is about using capital as a catalyst for a social change. It has to be, and it has the power to change and to bridge the gender gap. It generates a positive impact, not only in women, but in the economy itself, in the private sector. It is a good business. Businesses with more women in leadership, they show higher returns. Businesses with a gender diverse workforce improve their business performance. It is interesting to see that in Latin America, there is a very positive landscape with a higher rate of women entrepreneurs in the health, in the tech, in the educational and financial industry sector. They are working hard. Women are betting on profitable, scalable businesses, models that provide solutions to many of the challenges we are facing. But yet women companies don't access the needed finance. So we need to change how we are investing. Investors need to be
examining, and investors should be encouraged to assume different risks. Through a series of lenses, actually, investors can evaluate women in leadership roles. They can promote equal structured systems in the workplace. And actually, they should be also looking into women, into companies that promote women across the value chain, those developing products and services to improve women's lives. So there are many lenses that investors should be using while they are trying to seek those investments. What is not gender lens investing? It's important to mention that gender lens investing is not charity, it's not philanthropy, and it's not an add-on on how you do business. It should be on your DNA, even though there is an increasing interest to add gender analysis into the investment process. Much work should be done to encourage and facilitate a wider practice. This is why ProMujer, we have taken action to accelerate gender lens investing through programs and projects that are aligned with the win-win initiative, in alignment with the win-win related to empower and connect women entrepreneurs. ProMujer is launching Emprende ProMujer. This is a digital center for entrepreneurship to provide those skills buildings and mentorship opportunities that empower women entrepreneurs across Latin America, providing them the resources they need to attract investors. ProMujer, also in partnership with It Can Impact, a Canadian organization, created the ILU Women's Empowerment Fund, a gender lens investing fund. And within the framework of the Inversionistas por la Igualdad, a UN Women initiative, which places women at the center of investment, giving them visibility as entrepreneur, businesswoman, and investor, while it tries to attract new funds and new financial sector representatives to this space. ProMujer has collaborated with UN Women to develop a regional bond proposal, a sustainable linked gender bond, to finance women entrepreneurs and companies who cannot easily access the financial sector. We need to keep raising awareness, as you were stating, Teresa, at the beginning, about gender lens investing. I take advantage and invite all of you who wants to know more about gender lens investing to participate in our GLE forum taking place November 9th, 10th, and 11th. We need more events showcasing and promoting gender lens investing. We need to create these type of spaces for dialogue, and we need to be promoting and showcasing, as you were stating, more about gender lens investing and its impact. We need the public, the private sector, the government, investors working together in order to influence the mindset for gender lens investing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Carmen. It's always a pleasure to have you here. And gender lens investments indeed is the future. And I keep one of your sentences saying that it is a catalyst to change the world. And probably many of us here today are willing to change the world and to make capital flow to women and to women empowerment. So thanks so much for being with us today. And now I will fly virtually to Canada, where we have Laurie Kerr, who's CEO of FinDev. We have been speaking a lot about women empowerment principles, and we have been working a lot on the webs in our 3 EU financed programs. So we have committed a lot of companies. We have been implementing webs all around the world. So in relation particularly to gender lens investment, Laurie, can you please tell us about how you use the webs framework in your investment decisions? Laurie, good morning.
Hi, good morning. Thank you so much, Teresa. It's really great to be here today with our partners at UN Women, as well as with ProMujer and SeedStar. So thanks so much for this opportunity. Maybe just for a bit of context, FinDev Canada is Canada's development finance institution. We were established in 2018 with the mandate to provide financial solutions to the private sector and mobilize private investment in our target geographies of Latin America and the Caribbean and Sub-Saharan Africa, with 3 aims: to economically empower women, develop local markets, and combat climate change. And so given our focus on women's economic empowerment, gender equality is a strategic priority for FinDev Canada. We are proud to be a gender lens investor, and we apply a gender lens to 100% of our transactions. We consider our gender lens approach as a key enabler to achieving our development objectives, including as an asset to drive business performance in our portfolio. And we've heard a lot today about those attributions. So to answer your question, what does our gender lens look like in practice, and how do we use the WEPs? So we evaluate all our transactions based on their potential to drive gender inclusion and to increase women's access to economic opportunities, with a view to either steer capital towards transactions with high impact on women's economic empowerment, and or to support client companies to become more gender inclusive. Therefore, it's important for us at FinDev Canada to be able to rely on tried and tested frameworks that help us assess a company's level of commitment to gender equality, as well as their strength and potential blind spots when it comes to supporting and empowering women in their business operations. And as a financial institutions, it's also important to have these conversations with clients in an efficient way while adding as much value as possible. So that's why we as an organization decided to use the WEPs framework and the accompanying gender gap analysis tool. In fact, we like the tool because it's user-friendly, it's internationally recognized, and it's really designed with the private sector in mind. It's also available in many different languages, so it's easy to use across all of our target markets, as I mentioned. So in 2018, as part of our standard impact due diligence, we ask our potential clients to apply the WEPs gender gap analysis tool. The results of the analysis provide us with a high-level baseline of a company's current performance across the 7 WEPs principles, and that then feeds into our assessment of the impact profile of the transaction. And of course, it makes it easier to track progress over time. So while the results tell us where the company currently stands on the topic, in fact, whether the results come back as beginner or leader is really not the point. It's really about getting to know the company better and identifying priorities for action that will build on the company's strengths and really address whatever needs to be improved. For our impact and investment officers, the WEPs have proven to be a really great conversation starter with clients about where they are in their gender equality journey, where they see themselves going, and of course how we can help them. So in short, we use the WEPs not as an end in and of themselves, but really to kickstart that journey with our clients. And something interesting, since we started to use the WEPs in 2018, at least 4 of our clients have become WEP signatories, and some of them are actually using the WEPs in their own investee companies, applying it there. So what does that tell us? Well, it tells us that there is appetite on behalf of the private sector to learn more about gender equality, become more inclusive, as well as the need for robust and well-recognized standards for gender lens investing. And this is why partnerships and collaboration between investors and expert organizations like UN Women are so key to advance the field of gender lens investing. And we're very grateful for our partnership with UN Women, and many thanks for the opportunity for sharing some of these reflections today.
Thanks to you, Laurie. That's great to hear. I really enjoy listening things like the 100% of your investments having a gender lens, and also using the tools that we can build together. That the power of alliances is very clear, and I'm glad to listen that from yourself as well. So thank you so much for being with us today. And now I will move to India. So this is an amazing event. Everyone is in so many different parts of the world. So I'm moving to India to meet Anurag Malu. Anurag is head of partnerships in Seedstars. So good night, probably in India, Anurag. And our question for you would be, how have the EU programs enabled investors to support women entrepreneurs and or the ecosystem to advance gender equality? And what further support do you think would be needed? Anurag, the floor is yours. I don't know if Anurag is there.
Thank you so much, Narasa. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me loud and clear? Awesome. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me on this panel. And it's my pleasure to be here. I think just to, give a little more perspective on, firstly, what SeedStars is as an impact investor ourselves. At SeedStars, our mission is to impact lives of people in emerging markets. That's where we operate. And our focus is in emerging markets, supporting entrepreneurs, those who are leveraging technology and entrepreneurship, and while investing in those innovative solutions they are building and that are making impact in this region. And they're focusing on solving for largest UN Sustainable Development Goals. And as part of this, larger mission, when we started talking about, what can we do into the care economic sector, and together with, UN Women and the We Empower Asia, we were able to develop this Care Entrepreneurship Accelerator. We call it Care Acceleration Program in Asia Pacific. And the goal is, the mission for this program has been, how do we create more opportunity for investment into the care economy? How do we support, bringing back women, those who have left out from the workforce, especially due to the caregiving responsibilities, whether it's childcare or, early care or elderly care or even unpaid care. So there has been, I think I will repeat the point that Carmen mentioned, it's a holistic loss to the word to not include women in business. And if we are leaving them behind, the word is at the loss. And it's important, how do we bring them back? And I think COVID especially, many speakers and panelists have highlighted this, how COVID has affected businesses and especially women-led businesses, and care program is something, this care acceleration program is something, is really, how do we empower all of these, entrepreneurs, either led by, women-led businesses or women-founded businesses? How do we empower them and support them in these time of crisis and beyond to be able to build enterprises that brings women back into the workforce? So I think keeping that in mind, this Care Entrepreneurship Accelerator was launched to provide online training. It's run online right now due to the current situation, but it's run for Asia Pacific entrepreneurs working, building the care enterprises and supporting their innovative solutions, especially I think finding those market-based solutions, or hybrid approaches where public-private sector has been involved, and creating kind of, jobs and income opportunities for women, supporting these, solutions and breaking those barrier of economic opportunities that has left them behind in the workforce. So that's, I think, the essence of why this Care Acceleration Program has been really started, to again make it more inclusion and create a culture which is again bringing back women into the workforce. So we are providing mentorship, access to network and financing and support system through training and other resources to the entrepreneurs. But at the same time, I think our larger goal is, as you know, this is a pilot program we are running, and this will not gonna change everything overnight. We are here to build an ecosystem, bringing other stakeholders together, engage all these various stakeholders who wants to, contribute in supporting the care, building this care ecosystem. So what is really required is helping bring different stakeholders, train them also, learn from them, collaborate with them. In this program, for example, we've also collaborated with Boping. You've heard Emil also speaking. So how do we bring, as we implement and support this program and support the entrepreneurs, how do we also continue to learn? So there has been a lot of learning for SeedStars through We Empower and Your Women and Boping at the same time to understand and bring, gender lens to the DNA of what we also do. We have been doing a lot of programs, but how do we make it, part of our DNA in everything we do? So similar to, like there has been, I think I've spent a lot of time into the climate space before, and now I can see the way we have spent a lot of time, working and making, climate smart investments in mainstream conversation today. We need the same for gender smart and gender lens investment, and, bring importance and a lot of emphasis on nurturing this care economy. And I think as part of this, one thing I would really like to highlight is how we are engaging investors. Is as an investor ourselves, obviously, we need to really lead by examples. And by leading by examples, we also need to engage others and provide necessary training and support that this is what we are doing and share with them the best practices we are learning along with other investors, that how we would like you to be also participate in supporting these care enterprises and bringing the gender lens into your investing approach. So I think we have been organizing gender equity training, not just for the entrepreneurs and make gender equity part of their business DNA, but at the same time for investors to also learn and have this approach, have this mindset that allows them to have a better interaction and interface that bridge the gap between, care enterprises, but at the same time, the investors who wants to invest with this gender lens minded, who are open to learn these new approach and invest into this, these enterprises. So one thing that, as a concrete example, we have to look at from a fresh perspective now when we are looking at, while the selection of these companies, we may have to look at different criteria, not just always looking for an ROI. Yes, ROI is important on the investment, but at the same time, also understanding, are these businesses having, are these businesses themselves focusing on, gender equity in the work they're doing? And as an investor, are we supportive enough? Do we have enough patience also to let these businesses grow? They will have a different pace than the traditional businesses if they don't focus only on, the gender aspect. So I think finding that balance is so important. And for that, it needs time, it needs more support, more collaborations across the ecosystem. And I think in terms of further support, the question answering to that question, I think, as I said, the support should be around helping build this ecosystem for care economy and learning from the best practices we have been, coming from this Asia Pacific program. How do we take it to other regions in emerging markets? Maybe LATAM, most of the regions are having these challenges. And how do we help rebuild this economy? And by bringing back to, the women back to the workforce. So I think I'll just wrap up quickly with the last point. I think we need an approach where we can have new ways of financing and investing, where more blended financing, public and private sector investments coming together in supporting these care enterprises. And I think with that, I'll take a pause. But if there are any questions, happy to answer. And thank you once again for this opportunity to learn from all the inspiring work everyone is doing here.
Thank you, Anurag. It's really inspiring to listen to your projects and to your initiatives, and also listening you say that we need to lead with the example. I think that is key, and move forward with this agenda. And I will end this panel also taking a sentence from you, Anurag, saying that if you leave women behind, the world is in big loss. So I know we are all convinced about that, but we have to move forward and make this scaling and contagious all around the world. So again, many thanks, Carmen, Lori, and Anurag for being with us today. And I thank you also for the opportunity of moderating this conversation. And I hope we get to see each other very soon. Back to you, Daniel.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Teresa. Thank you all the moderators and the panelists from the three panels. I don't know about everyone else, but I'm amazed at the time because it doesn't feel like we've been going for a while, but we really we've fallen slightly behind. And I'm going to thank in advance the speakers for this closing panel now that we're coming into on the next steps and closing reflections for keeping to time in advance. So thank you for all of you who are now going to speak in this last session. We're going to go now to a speaker from the government side, which is also a really important perspective and voice in this discussion and this talk that we've had about the importance of a range of partners from different sectors working together. I do just want to recognize, obviously, for all of us involved in this collaboration, Germany's presidency of the G20 starting next year very soon, will be very important. So I'm very pleased that we have Dorothee Stark, who's the head of gender and human rights at BMZ online with us. So thank you for being with us, Dorothee. But let me give the floor to Ulrika Grandin. She's the Deputy Director from the Coordination Team on Feminist Foreign Policy, obviously Sweden's signature focus from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Sweden. And she's going to talk to us about opportunities for linkages with the generation equality process, and specifically the Action Coalition that many of you will be aware of on economic justice and rights. So Ulrika, I'd like to pass to you.
Okay, thank you very much. Can you see and hear me?
Yes, we see and hear you fine, Ulrika. Go ahead.
Good. Thank you for letting me participate in this seminar. I'm Ulrika Grandin, and I work at the Ministry for Foreign Affairs in the Swedish government. And I am coordinating together with our ambassador, the Swedish feminist foreign policy. And since you might have heard, Sweden has a feminist foreign policy, and we also call ourselves a feminist government. And this is based on the notion that we have all talked about here today, that gender equality is a foundation for a democratic and socially fair society. And we are especially involved now in women's economic empowerment in the Action Coalition on Economic Justice and Rights in the Generation Equality Initiative of UN Women. And this is because, as we also have talked about here today, that women's economic empowerment is central for all gender equality goals. Without women's economic empowerment, it's difficult to be represented in society. Without women's economic empowerment, it's difficult to leave an abusive relationship. Without women's economic empowerment, it's difficult to have your sexual and reproductive health and rights considered. So these are some of the reasons why we are involved in this Action Coalition, and we are in that coalition together with South Africa, Spain and Germany and Mexico, and also with the OECD and the ILO and the UNCDF and a lot of civil society actors, and also the Gates Foundation and some private actors. And what we've been doing in this coalition is to co-create an action plan that we will have for the next 5 years. And this involves a lot of work on labor market issues, unpaid care work, economic inclusion such as financial rights, etc. And as Sweden, we are prioritizing in this Action Coalition work against discriminatory laws when it comes to economic involvement for women, and also work on social and economic reforms for women. And for us, this is a really systematic approach. We feel that if we are going to get to the bottom of the gender equality issue, we really have to have the systematic approach in the society. And in Sweden's own reform history, we have identified 3 important reforms for us. And this has been affordable childcare for everyone, and also the generous parental leave benefits. And thirdly, actually individual taxation that has made a great difference instead of taxation by family. And in this way, we have women on the labor market, and we also have a more gender equal society. The other thing we are prioritizing in this Action Coalition is women's role in the labor market, and this is of course connected to the other issue. And social protection systems are a foundation for women's role in the labor market, but also in a crisis response. We see that in the COVID response, countries with higher social protection came out better. It's easier to regain economic activity after a crisis. So we really feel that the social protection systems and also universal is so central in these issues. On the women's role for labor market, of course, is labor market standards, equal pay, coming out from informal and part-time work, where a lot of women are in the majority. And we also want to push forward social dialogue on the labor market with different partners on the labor market agreeing on principles for a fair and sustainable labor market. The third issue that we are pushing for is feminist trade policy. And as we all know, trade benefits men and women unequally today. There are higher customs actually for a lot of market goods for women. It's not as easy for women to start companies and enterprises as we've heard today, and to get access to financial resources. And also, of course, what we can do in the EU and the WTO, where we are active, is to see to it that gender equality issues are included in trade agreements. So what will happen? Mexico and Paris, the big forums, have happened, and Sweden, as many other countries and actors, have made commitments, and they're all available on websites, and it's all transparent for everyone to see and make us feel accountable for those commitments. We see also the relation between women's economic empowerment and the work against violence against women as an important link. And I know that the EU Commission is one of the leaders of the Action Coalitions on gender-based violence. So we look forward to work together with the EU, and not least in the coming Swedish EU presidency that will take place in the spring of 23. So here we would like to of course include gender equality issues, but also to include the Generation Equality Initiative that is at a midterm stop there, and also the Gender Action Plan of the EU, which is at a midterm stop. So these are some of our ideas for going forward. We have also taken women's economic empowerment forward in the OSCE, where Sweden is in the chair at the moment. So we're working for a ministerial declaration for women's economic empowerment in this organization. And this will be, if we get it through, the first decision on women's economic empowerment in light of COVID and other circumstances that has been in this organization for since the beginning, actually. So we are very proud of that. So these are some of the political issues that we want to take forward. And I will stop here, and if there are questions or something later, I'm available. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ulrika. Colleagues, and that's much appreciated. And I think, you know, again, the Swedish leadership, I think, on talking about feminist foreign policy, but also being a feminist government, such an important example, I think, to set to many other countries, and very inspiring. Let me go now to Burçak İnel, who is joining us and is going to talk about the three topics of the three sessions: responsible business conduct, women's entrepreneurship, and gender lens investing. I just want to say, I'm sorry, Burçak is the Director of Financing and Growth from the European Banking Federation, which is really the voice of the European banking sector. Very, very important organization. I just want to note, colleagues, I think we've done an amazing job of fitting a lot into a short amount of time. Nonetheless, we are a little bit behind time. And so I hope you will all understand. I could just say in advance, we'll probably go 5-10 minutes over our anticipated ending. Well, apologies on that, but I hope you'll be able to stay with us. So with that, Burçak, over to you.
Thank you very much. Good morning and good afternoon to everybody. And thank you, Daniel, for pronouncing my name correctly. Very nice. I'm Turkish-Belgian, based in Brussels, working for the European Banking Federation, which represents 32 banking associations and more than 3,000 banks employing 2 million people. And I'm very, very happy to be here as a member of the WEBS community. I feel very connected to all the men and women who are with us today. So given my sector, in the way that I react to the topics that we discussed until now, I want to focus on especially what the banks and banking associations can do to help this agenda, because that's where I work. And basically, women interact with banks in many, many different ways, as employees of banks, as managers, as shareholders, investors, and also as simply as clients. And all of these roles are an opportunity for banks to advance women's empowerment. And also they are actually linked, because the more diverse banks are, and the more diverse actually banking associations are, the more inclusive and diverse the funding by banks is. So that's what I want to talk about now. And our journey started with Women's Empowerment Principles, which we signed 2 years ago. We have now 47 banks from Europe, which are signatories of WEPs, several banking associations, and quite a few of the banks and the associations that have actually signed after us. So I would like to think that we have encouraged them. Three things. How are we implementing the WEPs as the EBS? What are associations doing, and also what are banks doing? Quickly. As the EBF, we're using WEPs to guide us to become both a better employer and also a better representative of the banking sector. So as employer, we started with a baseline study 2 years ago, looking at all the issues that others discussed, like recruitment, work-life balance, pay. We also carried out staff workshops on unconscious bias. So that's on the employer side. On the trade association side, we're increasing the representation of women in our working groups and conferences. For example, last week we had the European Banking Summit, and there we averaged 43% of the speakers who were women. And in one of the sessions where sustainability was discussed, and the panelists were all the chief sustainability officers from Europe, our rate was even 80%. So there's definitely actually a link between inclusivity and sustainability. And we also started incorporating the gender aspect into existing work. For instance, we have something on financial education where we're very strong. And this year, we incorporated the financial literacy gap for women in our program. And we started a new work stream as well with our knowledge partner EY, looking at diversity and inclusion in the banking sector, the impact of COVID and the structural transitions that will happen in banking on diversity and inclusion, and ways to make diversity and inclusion a part of the strategic banking, the strategic thinking of a bank. And finally, as a trade association, we're also promoting the various tools available from the UN on gender target setting for the banks, on financial inclusion, financial literacy, and gender equality, because we're also a part of the Principles for Responsible Banking community. So among our associations who are especially active, have been especially active this last year, Austria, Belgium, and Luxembourg, I want to salute and congratulate. The Austrian Banking Association has not yet signed, but I think they will very soon. And they have, for instance, done a major campaign last year, and they've just launched a new study, which they will publish next month, on how women invest and how COVID might have impacted that. They have a new network. Febelfin, the representative of the Belgian financial sector, which was very active already before WEPs, I think is a good example showing that WEPs can accelerate existing work. For instance, they have just now launched a new set of tools, 25 tools, among which there is something on inclusive panels that has a charter and a site with advice and shared databases of female experts. And finally, the Luxembourg Bankers Association, which represents actually not just institutions, but also professionals, has just launched a list of KPIs to help their banks, their members track progress in the leadership of women in banking. And finally, banks, of course, are very active with their own commercial initiatives. This is a matter of competitiveness actually for them. And they're looking at the careers of women in banking in their own banks. They're looking at entrepreneurs, how they can help them network, literacy. And on the financing side, in addition to the programs that they have, they're also working as an intermediary for the EU funds or national funds. So to conclude, banks acting individually and also together with their associations, I think can make a big difference to create a more inclusive society by more inclusive financing. And for that, we're very happy to have the WEPs framework as a tool to guide us. Thank you.
Teşekkür ederim, Burçak. Thank you. And that's really, I mean, I think the impact of that with a group of banks and as wide as the network that you have is in Europe is a really big deal. We've had an amazing actually engagement. I just want to share, we had 3,000 registered participants. I think we had about 700 people on the Zoom at various points through this. over 80 countries represented and more. So I think this just reflects the interest and the energy of this issue. And I'm very, very pleased now to give the floor to really one of the key people in making all of this happen, the work that we've been talking about, Maria Rosa Sabatelli. She is the Deputy Head of Unit for Industrialized Countries and Foreign Policy Support at the Service for Foreign Policy Instruments, at the European Commission. So I'm going to invite Maria Rosa to give us our closing remarks, or part of our closing remarks at least. Over to you.
Thank you, Daniel, and thank you very much to all of you for being with us today and for sharing such inspiring ideas with all of us. And I wish to thank all the speakers and all participants and partners who contributed to the success of our 3 programs. For me, I have to be sincere, it's very exciting and moving to be part of this event today, because I was part and witness of the design and launch of one of the programs in Latin America back in 2017. And it's really nice. It's a delight to see how much Win-Win and the other sister programs we empower and Empower Asia have achieved so far. So thank you. It's really nice. But I think that we have demonstrated what can be achieved if governments, private sector, civil society all work together for gender equality. And from today's intervention, it is very clear. We just heard the banks, we heard many experiences. It's clear that if each sector has a specific role in creating this enabling environment, but we are convinced that gender equality can be only achieved if we act and work all together. So during these past 3 years, we have been leveraging the WEPS framework in our engagement with the private sector. And since we have joined forces, the community of committed company, industry, association, chamber of commerce has grown by 238%. And has been very diversified. From 1,700, we have passed to nearly 6,000 organizations in just 3.5 years. So in the last 3 years, really, there has been this huge increase. And I've also personally witnessed how women entrepreneurs have benefited from the program. I remember very, very well exchanging with a Venezuelan businesswoman in Costa Rica, for example, when she proudly was speaking at one of the Win-Win events on the departure of the first load of a shipment of tons of peppers to Frankfurt. This was very exciting, but also I witnessed how all the other women entrepreneurs were exciting in joining our activities in Latin America and be part of this network that we have built. So this network is there, and it's a huge wealth for these women. And we believe that the more than 20,000 business women impacted by the program, that those who have participating in the more than 800 trainings went through an experience that has led them in a way or another to rethinking themselves as entrepreneurs. The European Commission 2020-2025 Gender Equality Strategy aims at a Europe where women and men, girls and boys, in all their diversity are equal. Our action plan sets out concrete action to build a gender equal world, and now we have to really implement it. With our 3 programs, we have created a wealth of resources and tools. Please, let's use them. Let's share them. Let's carry them wherever we go to help advance gender equality and women's economic empowerment everywhere, in the workplaces, in the community, everywhere. We know that our society is going through the difficult recovery from the pandemic, and women must be heard and supported in this construction and in this difficult process, I have to say. Recover from the pandemic has to be green for us, and it must be by finding a new balance with our environment based on sustainability and not with a short-term vision that has often been the case. So, and in this, women also have a key role, and this has been confirmed also to what we have experienced in the program. We have seen that to build back better, women has to be part of this. And the fantastic movement created by the Generation Equality Forum, bringing together the many contributions of public and private partners, is also a reason to believe that we will be advancing and not backtracking in the next 5 years. And the European Commission is proud to be a co-leader of an action coalition in the Gender Equality Forum together with our member states, and we are pleased also to work with all the partners to act for equal. The EU will continue to build on the progress achieved so far and pave a path so that women can continue to actively participate in the world of work. And we will continue to work to achieve a truly gender equal work. To finalize, please let me thank very much and congratulate UN Women and also ILO for such impressive result and for the great partnership. I have to say that it was really great to work together. Thank you very much.
Well, Maria Rosa, thank you. Those are wonderful remarks. We're going to hear obviously from our very good friend from ILO as well in a moment, but thank you. I want to just highlight just three things you said very briefly. One, I think you're absolutely right. We've demonstrated what can be achieved if we all work together. And it's been great in this discussion to have voices from all sorts of different sectors, and that's exactly what it takes. You also talked about how the community of committed partners has grown. Of course, we particularly see, as Anna mentioned earlier, the spectacular sort of explosion in membership and sign up for the Women's Empowerment Principles as one manifestation of that. It's also great to note that about half of the participants in this session that we're having now, this meeting that we're having, are from the private sector, which is huge private sector engagement, I think, in this discussion. Very, very positive to see. And then lastly, yes, the reminder, there are so many tools and assets for all of us to use that have come already out of this work and will continue to come. And I do encourage colleagues and friends on the call to go to weps.org, weps.org, where you will find these, as well as other places as well that you can find them. So thank you so much, Maria Rosa. And I'm very pleased to have just before our final words from UN Women, I'm going to give the floor to Chidi King, who is the Chief of the Gender Equality, Diversion and Inclusion branch of our very close partners and friends at the International Labour Organization. So Chidi, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, and hello to everybody. What a wonderful discussion. And it's really giving us some concrete examples, and the examples that have been shared really confirm the importance of innovative partnerships to advance towards gender equality and women's economic empowerment. More than ever, we need a quantum leap to ensure that gender inequality doesn't reopen as our companies, economies, and societies start to do so across the world. And here I'd pause to support the call for vaccine equity and urgent distribution to those countries whose populations have so far been denied the benefits of the vaccine. The challenges ahead of us are exceptional in nature and scope and require bold and transformative responses. Women have suffered disproportionate job and income losses, including because of their overrepresentation in the sectors that have been hardest hit by the crisis. And many women continue to work on the front lines, sustaining care systems, economies, and societies, while often also doing the majority of unpaid care work. And we should keep in mind that whilst women have borne the brunt of the socioeconomic impacts of the pandemic, not all women have been impacted in the same way. Compounded inequalities and exclusion, often rooted in intersecting forms of discrimination and barriers, mean that women who are already being left further behind have seen their prospect pushed even further back. If our responses are to be effective, bold, transformative, those responses need to be crafted around the different and multiple challenges that different and diverse women face. As the ILO's Director General Guy Ryder has said, the effectiveness and resilience of the recovery from COVID-19 will depend heavily on how broadly based and socially inclusive it is. The important partnership between the European Union, the ILO, and UN Women has provided a valuable platform to give visibility to these changes in countries with different levels of development, to gather evidence of what works to inform public and corporate policies to promote and achieve gender equality, and foster partnerships for women's economic empowerment in several regions. And we've seen encouraging results. We've developed a range of resources and tools that we hope will continue to help governments, employers, and women entrepreneurs in removing the barriers that they face to make gender equality a reality in the world of work, a responsibility, of course, of us all. In June this year, during the International Labour Conference, governments, employers, and workers from around the world, I should say in June 2019 and 2020 and 2021, the International Labour Conference has been working towards a declaration that is human-centered and that really puts the emphasis on decent work for all. And our global call to action, which was adopted after the advent of COVID, requiring a human-centered approach to the recovery, prioritizes the creation of decent jobs for all and addresses the inequalities that have been further exacerbated by the crisis. This global consensus provides a strong basis for gender equality and women's economic empowerment in the world of work. Governments, of course, need to play their part and create together with the social partners, employers and workers, an enabling environment. And as we've heard, adequate investment in the care economy and the eradication of violence and harassment from the world of work are key components of that enabling environment. And we also need to see more enterprises seriously take on this agenda in their own operations and in business partnership. We've seen the benefits that can be reaped when this happens, and this is how we can move towards a better normal. And to make this better normal a reality for all women and men, the ILO pledges to continue to work with and partner with international organizations and strengthen its own engagement and support to governments, employers, and workers in its member states around the world. With common purpose, determination, and effective partnerships, we can achieve this. Millions of women count on us. Let's continue partnerships such as this to achieve this. Thank you so much.
Well, Chidi, thank you. I think those are excellent words for us to take away with us. I also appreciate the way you left us with that very clear focus on I think you said the different and multiple challenges and different multiple identities of women. That's what we're working towards, and a better normal that involves all of those elements you very articulately laid out. It's been a real pleasure, you should just say, Chidi, to be arm in arm with ILO in this work and have one of our team UN moments, which is always particularly gratifying. So you also said, Chidi, that you know, we talked about all of us continuing to work together, building and leveraging this partnership. I want to introduce, just to say some final words, a new face from UN Women, Aldiana Shishit. She's our chief of it's called the Multi-Stakeholder Engagement and Advisory Services section, but it's basically our lead on private sector engagement. And she's just recently started, so all of you will be seeing more of her as the face of UN Women on private sector engagement, and we're extremely happy to have her. So Aldiana, I just want to hand over to you for some reflections on last steps.
Thank you so much, Dan. And yes, all 13 days in my new job. So for the sake of the time, I will just have a few reflections, and I've cut my intervention short as I will be meeting all of you very soon and having opportunity for longer discussions and more in-depth discussions. Basically, my conclusion today from listening everything is simply web signatories are doing better than non-signatories. So that's a simple conclusion that I have here, and that public commitments and full adoption of WEPs matters. For UN Women, what this means is that our newly adopted strategic plan clearly positions our work on this, mandates us to set direction and to work with private sector through strategic partnership modalities, including through developing further our advisory services. So great model of these partnerships is actually this very partnership with the European Commission and the ILO on the WEPs as showcased today. And because of that, we have clearly achieved so much. So thank you for that. And we look forward to continuing this partnership. We are also very happy to, for our future work, to see that our strategic plan is actually aligned with several of the objectives of excellent EU Gender Action Plan. an EU gender strategy, equality strategy. So that's where we are kind of looking exactly how we can continue forward. This is clearly one of the most important journeys towards achieving gender equality and gender equity. So with UN Women partners, we want to continue to make WEPs reality and to work for the really lasting and true transformation that, working towards responsible and accountable, measurable, gender equal business conduct, also towards culture of positive masculinities within business environment, and towards enabling environment for women's entrepreneurship and gender lens investing. And I just want to close there with Carmen's words earlier, who she said, gender investing is not a charity or philanthropy. You should have that in your DNA. And I think that's where I believe we all are. We all have it in our DNA. So thank you for your partnership so far. And I look forward to extending partnership to the next generation of WEPs. Thank you so much. And then back to you.
Well, thank you, Aldiana. I've been a poor moderator in that we've gone now almost 20 minutes over, but I see we still have I think between Zoom and YouTube more than 300 people who are still here, which I think really says something. I want to thank everyone who has spoken for all of your contributions, but also more importantly, I think, than just the discussion here today, all of the work, the collaboration, the partnership, and the results, which for women that this all represents, and also, as another colleague said, if it's good for women, it's good for everyone. So I think I would just leave us. I feel like we could carry on for a while. This definitely does not feel like 2 hours and 20 minutes to me, but I know that this is an ongoing discussion. It has been going on a while. It will continue to go on. We are very much united in a shared objective and also in a vision of achieving it together. So thank you very, very much, everybody. And I'm really looking forward to continuing to see you as we continue on this path, all in our collaboration and partnership. So thank you and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Thanks, everyone.